Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Pariprajagacharya Sotara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Jekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gita Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Jai. Shri Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Narayanam Naskricham Naram Chaivam Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Yasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nastapareshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamashlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 6th Chapter, Text 30. Tatash chamanasa kale Ijire ashayo pare Pitaro viduva daitya Manushya kratuvir vivam Responsively tata. Thereafter cha. Also manavaha. The Manus, the fathers of mankind. Kale, in due course of time. Ijire, worshipped. Rishaya, great sages. Apare, others. Pitara, the forefathers. Vibhuda, the learned scholars. Daityaha, great devotees of the demigods. Manusha, mankind. Kritubi vibhum, by performance of sacrifices to please the Supreme Lord. Translation: therefore, the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, their forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and mankind perform sacrifices meant to please the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Daityas are devotees of the demigods because they want to derive the greatest possible material facilities from them. The devotees of the Lord are ekanishta, or absolutely attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, they have practically no time to seek the benefits of material facilities. Because of their realization of their spiritual identity, they are more concerned with spiritual emancipation than with material comforts. Translation again: therefore the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and mankind performed sacrifices meant to please the Lord. Generally, people, if they pray at all, they're praying for better material facilities. But devotees, on the other hand, have, as Prabhupada says, no time to seek material benefits. They're considered to be, by devotees, to be illusory or not very important. Because, as it is said, they're more concerned with spiritual emancipation, or getting relief from material existence. So I'm going to read today from Chaitanya Bhagavat, this book, a passage which I thought was kind of related to what we were reading about. It shows you what the opposition is like. Sometimes people who are very wise, older, and who are well-traveled and very wealthy and very successful in life are very attractive beings, and we think that maybe we should follow them instead of Hare Krishnas. So this passage kind of distinguishes between those kinds of materialists or non-believers or godless people and Lord Chaitanya himself. Lord Chaitanya was present at this fellow's ashram, he was called a Dari sannyasi, and it explains what a Dari, D-A-R-I, sannyasi is. And just so you can visualize what's going on, when there's a parentheses mark, I'm going to say open paren, and when it ends, I'm going to say close paren. This is the in case you didn't know, this is the protocol for the speech-to-text things in smartphones. If you say something, it puts it in words, and then they say open paren, open quote, and close quote. So I'll follow those protocols. And every once in a while there will be a square kind of bracket, and I don't think that appears in this passage. But if there is such a thing, I'll say open square bracket, close square bracket. Anyway, that's just so you can visualize. And what it is this book, the texts are translated by ISKCON devotees, and the purports are written by Bhaktisiddhanta, originally in Bengali but translated into English. And as far as I know, these are the only passages of Bhaktisiddhanta's writing that have been translated from Bengali into English. Actually, he's got some English writing in the Brahma Samhita, the book that's nominally written by Srila Prabhupada. But it's very difficult to understand his English because he was primarily writing for when he was writing in English for the British rulers of before 1948 of India. So it's very difficult, and like a lot of people, I used to have a dictionary in one hand and the book in the other to realize what he was saying, because he was using very obscure, literary and difficult English words and phrases. But Bengali is a lot simpler. I mean, I'm not an expert in Bengali or Sanskrit, but the grammar is a lot simpler. And this, I think, these purports that were translated are a lot simpler, easier to understand, although they do get a little bit complicated when he talks about certain words. Anyway, I'll just read, I'm going to be reading this from this passage. So we start with this is chapter 19 of the Madhya Kanda. And you can, if you want to get this book, you can get it, and I'll say where later on. There's only, I think, one or two places in the world where you can get it. They seem to not be too keen to put books for sale on Amazon when they're printed in India. Anyway, this is text number 41, chapter 19 of Madhya Kanda, Madhya Lila. It's Chaitanya Bhagavat, text number 41. Halfway down the road near Muluka is a village named Lalitapura, which is situated near the Ganges. Ganges is the proper English pronunciation. And then purport, Muluka or Muluka, open paren, derived from the Persian word milik, end paren, close paren, is situated on the eastern bank of the Ganges opposite Ambika. Places like Piari, Ganja are situated on the western side of the Ganges. The village of Lalitapura is situated near Shantipura. In other words, it is on the eastern side of the Ganges, halfway between Mayapur and Shantipura. It is on the eastern side, directly adjacent to the village of Hatta Dhanga, text 43. I won't read the English transliteration, but I'll read the translations. Text 43, in that village lived a householder sannyasi. His house was on the side of the road near the Ganges. Purport. The phrase householder sannyasi, or householder baula, refers to those who identify themselves as tyagis, or renunciants, while maintaining extreme attachment to home. The Tamasic Tantras encourage such dari, D-A-R-I, and with a long mark over the A and a long mark over the I, of such dari sannyasis, or immoralists, as in the logic of Sonara Patara Bhatti, open quote, stone bowls made of gold, close quote. Those householder baulas who are extremely... Bals is one of the 13 pseudo-Vaishnava sects. There are a number of people in India who are imposters or pretenders of Vaishnavism, and they're called Ampra Sampradayas, and Bals are one of the prominent ones. The Tamasic Tantras encourage such Dari sannyasis, or immoralists, as the logic of Sonara Patara Bhati, stone bowls made of gold, close quote. Those householder balas who are extremely attached to home and who dress themselves as renunciants, wearing red cloth with the support of Shakta philosophy, claim that maintaining maidservants and wives is approved by the Shastras. At present, Sriman Anandacharana Mitra wears red cloth even though he is a householder. And Sri Yukta Madhusudana Goswami of Vrindavan used to wear red cloth as a preacher even though he was a householder. Accepting the saffron dress of a renunciant is included among the rules for a sannyasi on the path of regulated principles, just as all Vaishnava acharyas in the medieval age used saffron cloth. In the course of preaching, their own spontaneously manifested Paramhamsa Dharma, Sri Rupa and Sanatan, who inaugurated Anuraga Marga, the path of attachment, were not inclined towards Sri Gaurasundar's Ekadandi sannyasi. In Bhaktisiddhanta's writing, sometimes he's sort of embedding sarcastic remarks about people who are atheists or non-believers. So I just wanted to insert this because sometimes it sounds like he's defending them, but he's kind of making somewhat sarcastic remarks sometimes. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky to understand what he's saying. Sri Rupa and Sanatan, who inaugurated Anaga Raga, the path of attachment, were not inclined towards Sri Gaurasundar's Ekadandi sannyasi. Sri Gopalabhatta Goswami's spiritual master, Tridandi sannyasi Srila Prabhupada Saraswati, exhibited the superiority of Paramahansa dress and the path of attachment by wearing saffron dress befitting an acharya, Srimaj Jivacharya. Befitting an acharya. Full stop. Sriman Jivacharana, who followed Sri Rupa, has, in the course of imparting instructions befitting an acharya, preached the Sakya Rasa to help easily understand the concept of Parakya Rasa and to uproot the poisonous teeth of the fraudulent followers of Parakya Rasa. Actually, the concept of Svakya Rasa, preached by Sri Jivapada, has simply established the supremacy of Parakya Rasa of the spiritual world. Text 44. The Lord asked Nityananda, "Do you know whose ashram this is and who stays here?" Purport. The word mandala means, open quote, surrounding area, close quote, open quote, camp, close quote, hermitage, open quote, estate, and close quote, or open quote, one's own land, close quote. Text 45. Nityananda replied, "O Lord, this is the house of a sannyasi." The Lord then said, open quote, "If we are fortunate, we can meet him," close quote. Text 46. The two Prabhus smiled as they went to the sannyasi's house. Vishwambara, that's Lord Chaitanya, therefore offered obeisances to the sannyasi. Texts 47 and 48. On seeing Vishwambara's most enchanting form, beautiful limbs, and smiling face, the sannyasi, in great satisfaction, offered him various benedictions. Open quote, "May you achieve wealth, family, good wife, and learning," close quote. Text 49. The Lord said, open quote, "O Gosani, this is not a benediction. Rather, you should say," open single quote, that's a quote within a quote. It's the reverse etiquette from Australia. "May you attain the mercy of Krishna." Rather, you should say, open single quote, "May you attain the mercy of Krishna," end single quote. Then purport. The followers of the modern day late Mr. Nandi, who was an extremely attached householder, worshipper of Gauranga, support this Dari sannyasi's philosophy. The Dari sannyasi's conception of open quote blessings, close quote, is to attain a beautiful wife, wealth for exploiting the poor, materialistic education, and the thirst to maintain the prestige of one's hereditary caste to impress inferiors. Sri Gaurasundar, that's Lord Chaitanya, did not approve the conceptions of such extremely attached householders, open quote, Baba Thakuras, close quote, and pointed out the faults in the Dari sannyasi's blessings. Such lusty people cannot understand the mentality of the desireless Paramahansa Vaishnavas. They consider the Vaishnavas to be like themselves. The Dari sannyasis have gradually embraced the philosophy of the caste Goswamis. Srimad Mahaprabhu has not at all accepted the philosophy of the caste Goswamis. Rather, he established that the mercy of Krishna is the topmost benediction to teach the married Goswamis. People who pray for material benedictions highly esteem activities that are derived of devotion to Vishnu and fulfill their lust. In that state, they cannot understand the principles of Nishkama Paramhamsa Bhagavata Dharma, or selfless pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And they consider non-Vaishnavism, created by Smartas, to be Vaishnavism. The caste Goswamis and Dari sannyasis are anxious to acquire the title of, open quote, Gosani, close quote, from the people of the world. On the pretext of offering respect to the sannyasi, Mahaprabhu also addressed the sannyasi as, open quote, Gosani, close quote. Actually, they can never become Goswamis. The mentality of Sri Chaitanya has already been revealed in such verses as Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30, Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram, and Sri Rupa Goswami's Vacho Vegam Manasakroda Vegam. Footnote 1. I won't read these footnotes. You may know these verses anyway. This is text 50. The benediction of devotional service to Vishnu is inexhaustible and indestructible. Whatever you have said, O Gosani, does not befit you. Close quote. I'm sorry, it started off with open quote. The benediction of devotional service to Vishnu is inexhaustible, this is Lord Chaitanya speaking, and indestructible. Whatever you have said, O Gosani, does not befit you. Close quote. Purport. Open quote. Wealth, children, beautiful wife, and material education are all temporary, whereas Lord Vishnu is eternal. The Vaishnavas are eternal, and the Vaishnavas' devotional service to Vishnu is eternal. The benediction of devotional service to Vishnu is not destructible and not exhaustible. People address you as single quote, open single quote, Guru, close single quote, and open single quote, Gosani, close single quote. If you are so, then it is never proper for you to award such worldly temporary benedictions. Close quote. The sannyasi, then text 51, the sannyasi smiled and said, open quote, I am now directly experiencing what I have previously heard about. Text 52, open quote, continued. If good advice is given, people will chase you with a stick. The behavior of this son of a Brahmin, he's referring to Lord Chaitanya here, is just like that. Purport. The Dari sannyasi said, open quote, if good advice is given to people, they respond with outrage. Close quote. Today I have direct evidence of that. This son of a Brahmin, he's referring to Lord Chaitanya in youth, this son of a Brahmin has taken on the business of perverting the truth. Close quote. Text 53. Open quote. I happily awarded him the benedictions of wealth, and what to speak of appreciating it. He found fault in me. Close quote. Open quote. Purport, open quote. I happily gave the son of a Brahmin the benediction, open single quote, may you achieve wealth, close single quote, but rather than feel grateful, he condemned me. And this is certainly the work of Kali. You can see this guy is a bit of a philosopher, even though he's an atheist. 54. The sannyasi said, listen, open quote, listen, O son of a Brahmin, why do you criticize my benediction? Texts 55 and 56, open quote. If one who has taken birth in this world does not engage in sense gratification, does not enjoy beautiful women, and does not accumulate wealth, then what is the use of his life? And you are embarrassed to accept the benedictions of such wealth? Purport. Open quote. If after coming into this material world a person does not enjoy the intimate association of women, then there is no use of his life. What use is there in the life of one who, after receiving a human birth, does not accumulate wealth? I awarded you the benediction of that you should achieve wealth and women, but you are embarrassed to accept them. This is astonishing. This is no way to progress in the world without wealth. I cannot understand how one can fill his stomach by possessing devotional service to Vishnu. Close quote. Text 57. Open quote. Tell me, if you have devotion to Vishnu, what will you eat if you do not have wealth? Close quote. Text 58. On hearing the words of the sannyasi, the Lord smiled and raised his hand to his forehead. Purport. On hearing the foolish arguments of the Dari sannyasi, Gaurasundar hit his forehead with his hand while saying, Haya, Haya. I don't know exactly what that means, Haya or Hoy. I think it's sometimes translated as alas, or something like an expression of I looked this up, what alas means. It's an expression of grief, pity, or concern. I think it's translated as alas in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Haya. Text 65, open quote. People take great pleasure in material happiness, and the Vedas offer directions according to their mentality. What is the fault of the Vedas? Then there's a footnote which I won't read. Text 66, open quote. The Vedas declare, open single quote, by taking bath in the Ganges and chanting of the name of Hari, one will achieve wealth and children. Close single quote. And people therefore engage in such activities. Purport. Ordinary people think that by taking bath in the Ganges and claiming the name of Hari, one can achieve worldly wealth and a large family. That is why they glorify the Vedas as helpful to their sense enjoyment. But by engaging in activities like taking bath in the Ganges and chanting the name of Hari, their natural contamination is destroyed, and an inclination for the Lord's service is awakened. Text 67, open quote. If one somehow or other takes bath in the Ganges and chants the name of Hari, then by the influence of those activities, one will easily achieve devotional service. Text 68, continuing, open quote. Foolish people do not understand this intention of the Vedas, so they give up devotional service to Krishna and engage in sense gratification. And then purport. Those who cannot understand the intention of the Vedas certainly become intoxicated in the material world by disregarding the necessity of serving the Supreme Lord. Text 69. Open quote. O Goswami, try to understand what is good and what is bad. There is no benediction other than the devotional service to the Lord Krishna. Close quote. Purport. Mahaprabhu instructed the Dari sannyasi about what is good and what is bad, and by doing so, he proved that no benediction other than service to Krishna is able to offer complete perfection. Text 70. While instructing the sannyasi, the Supreme Lord and spiritual master of everyone taught devotional service through Vedic evidence. Text 71. Whatever Lord Chaitanya speaks is the absolute truth. Sinful living entities who blaspheme others do not accept his words. Purport. not understanding Sri Chaitanya Chandra's statements, which are the complete absolute truth, sinful people who blaspheme others perpetually remain sinful-minded and do not respect devotional service. Text 72. On hearing the Lord's words, the sannyasi smiled and thought, open quote, I can understand that this Brahmin has become crazy because of misguidance. Text 73. Continuing, open quote, it appears that now he's still thinking. It appears that this sannyasi has spoiled the Brahmin boy's mind and is taking him away somewhere. He's referring to Nityananda, who at that time appeared a lot older than Lord Chaitanya. Close quote. Purport. After hearing Mahaprabhu establish the supremacy and great necessity of devotional service, the Dari sannyasi, being unable to approve it, considered Mahaprabhu a crazy boy. And on seeing Nityananda Prabhu dressed as a sannyasi with Mahaprabhu, the Dari sannyasi thought that Nityananda had certainly deceived this Brahmin boy by polluting his intelligence. Text 74. The sannyasi said, open quote, the time has come when I appear ignorant before a child. Text 75. Open quote. I have traveled throughout the world to Ayodhya, Mathura, Haridwar, and Badarik Ashram. Text 76. Open quote. I have been to all the holy places like Gujarat, Kashi, Gaya, Vidyanagar, and Sri Lanka. Text 77, continuing, open quote. Yes, I could not understand what is good and what is bad. Now this child, who is still drinking his mother's milk, is teaching me. Close quote. Purport. Open quote. I am experienced, mature, expert in material activities, and I have taken good advice from intelligent persons at various holy places in the course of my pilgrimage throughout India. But this Brahmin boy, with no appreciation of my experience or understanding of his position as a suckling child, has come to teach me. I am fully aware of the sense of good and bad. Close quote. Nityananda smiled and said, listen, Goswami, open quote, listen, Goswami, there is no need to argue with a child. Text 79, open quote, I know well your glories. For my sake, forgive all his offenses. Close quote. Purport. Sri Nityananda Prabhu offered respect to the Dari sannyasi, who was intoxicated with material enjoyment, by begging forgiveness. And, since he established that Mahaprabhu was an ignorant child, the Dari sannyasi displayed compassion on Nityananda Prabhu. Text 80. When the sannyasi heard glorification of himself, he became pleased and immediately invited them, with a capital T, for lunch. Text 81. Nityananda said, open quote, we have to leave immediately for some important work. You may give us, capital U, something that we, capital W, can eat on the way after taking bath. Close quote. Purport. The phrase Karya Gaurave means, open quote, we have something more important to do than this, end quote, close quote. This was the reason that was cited for their departure. Text 82. The sannyasi said, open quote, take bath here, eat something, feel refreshed, and then go. Close quote. Text 83. The two Prabhus incarnated to deliver the sinful living entities. So, they agreed to remain in the sannyasi's house. Text 84. We're just about done. After getting, open quote, after getting relief from their journey by taking bath in the Ganges, the two Prabhus came and sat down to eat some fruit. First they offered items like milk, mangoes, and jackfruit to Lord Krishna, and then they, with a capital T, sat down to eat before the sannyasi. Text 86. The sinful sannyasi drank wine, making some signs. I don't know what that means. Making some signs to Nityananda, and he spoke as follows. I think he made a sign of drinking wine. The Dari sannyasi was in favor of accepting a path opposed or contrary to sannyas. Since he was extremely attached to drinking wine, he even indicated that Nityananda Prabhu should also drink. the Dari sannyasi repeatedly endeavored to get him to drink. The word Vamapati, that's spelt V as in Vasudeva, A, M as in Madhava, A, P as in Pradyumna, A, T, H, I. I don't know. The word Vamapati refers to a Vamachari, V-A-M-A-C-A-R-I, or one who acts contrary to Vedic principles. According to the Acharya Veda Tantra, open quote, a Vamachari's principal duty is to drink wine, eat meat, eat flesh, enjoy sex, associate with women, worship other women with the menstrual discharge of his wife, and take and distribute intoxicants such as wine. Afterwards, he should consider himself a woman and worship the supreme female energy. Close quote. He should mark his forehead with vermilion and meditate on his guru and worshipable deity while holding a container of wine in his hand. He should offer prayers to the container of wine in his hand by reciting mantra prayers to the container of wine 5 times, followed each time by a drink of that wine. Then he should continue drinking until all his senses are agitated. Therefore, he should recite prayers invoking peace, such as Shanti Stotra. One should discuss Prana Toshani Tantra and Kalar Nava for more elaborate prescriptions. Text 87. Open quote. Listen, Shripad, shall I bring you some Ananda? Where else can I find guests like you? Close quote. Text 88. Since Nityananda had visited various places, he could understand that this person was a drunkard sannyasi. Text 89. The sannyasi repeatedly said, open quote, shall I bring some Ananda? Nityananda replied, open quote, we should go now. Close quote. Purport. When Srimad Nityananda Prabhu saw the Dari sannyasis' eagerness to make them drink wine, he told them they had to leave. Text 90. On seeing the Cupid-like beauty of the 2 lords, the sannyasi's wife watched them with all concentration. Text 91. She told her husband, why are you disturbing their meal? Open quote, why are you disturbing their meal? Close quote. Purport. Persons who have not married are fit to be called sannyasis or bhikshus. Those who are averse to sannyasis disturb and contend with sannyasis by expressing a desire to establish that sinful activities like gathering women, snatching others' wives, are approved by religious principles. In this case, however, the sannyasi's wife forbade her husband's entering into the conflict. I think we'll close here. Any questions or comments about anything I've read or said? You can get this book online by going to something called Touchstone Media, I think it's called .com. Anyway, if you look for it under Touchstone, you'll find it. Touchstone.com, and this is what it looks like. There's 5 volumes, and I think you can only get them nowadays. I think India might be the only place where you can actually get them. And this is, I think, the only writing of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So any comments or questions? Translated into English. Yes?
So Maharaj, obviously the sannyasi was maybe sannyasi in name only, very fallen. So what lesson can we learn from Lord Chaitanya Nityananda agreeing to accept his hospitality in that way?
Well, what we can learn from Nityananda accepting his hospitality and calling him the sannyasi or Gosani is that the enemies seem to be very wise, very intelligent, very well-traveled, very wealthy, and very important people. And as it's said here, the 2 lords, Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, incarnated in order to deliver people like him, and to show us that we have to very carefully distinguish between our friends and our enemies. It's not an easy thing to do because sometimes the enemies are very intelligent, and just like this guy was. So that's one of the things that's why this passage is so important. There's a lot of enemies out there that appear to be very alluring in different ways. They have many attributes, but they're godless. And like this guy, they were drinking a lot of beverage that had alcohol in it.
Yeah, I noticed it's that they didn't take anything from him, but what the two lords did, they offered themselves to eating the mango and etc.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they ate only jackfruit and mango and a little milk. And I think what Prabhupada told his followers was that if they're preaching in people's houses and they're offered cooked food, they have to be careful. And they can always accept fruits, but other things they have to be more cautious. Because sometimes they're cooked in pots where there was meat and other undesirable things.
My understanding is pastime very soon after this.
It's called Touchstone Media, I think. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Anyway, my understanding very soon after this, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realises that alcohol has been served, they jump through the window and run away. Is that the same pastime?
There's nothing about jumping through a window.
Well, they run away and
they went away, for sure. That's what goes on in the next couple of pages. They left. Yes?
Thank you. It's a quote by Prabhupada, and where it is that even a drunkard can advance in Krishna consciousness if, while he's drinking his wine, he's thinking that's the taste of Krishna. So given that advancement in Krishna consciousness is dependent not on the external but the internal mood, one might wonder why is there so much hate put on such external activities by Vaishnavas, such as drinking and associating with and all these things that were described here.
Well, it's not exactly hatred, as you mentioned, but because Vaishnavas are supposed to engage everyone, no matter what their background, whether they're drunkards or not, or whether they're old or young, or whatever their gender or nationality is. That's part of what preaching is all about, that they accept everyone and anyone. And yet here, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitananda are distinguishing what is still the proper path. That if you're doing things that you're not supposed to do, you can advance if you're willing to give them up. And one story that Prabhupada told was there was one of his godbrothers, a German guy, was preaching in England, and to a guy that used to be a British man who used to be the governor of Bengal, Marquis something or other, and he asked him if he could be a Brahmin, and he said, yes, I can make you a Brahmin. And the gentleman said, well, what are your requirements? And he told him that he had to follow these 4 principles. And the response by the Marquis was, that's impossible. So he wanted to be a Brahmin, but he wasn't willing to accept any kind of austerity. Therefore, he wasn't made a Brahmin. I don't know if that means anything, but it helps with what you're concerned with. So there's another place where Prabhupada interprets the Bhagavad Gita shloka where Krishna says, I'm the taste of water. And he said, even if a person likes the taste of wine or any kind of liquor, that's a form of indirect kind of devotional service. So he's saying that even someone who's sinful can be accepted as being originally Krishna conscious, but he has to ultimately renounce that kind of thing. But still, he has to know that Krishna consciousness is inclusive enough to not reject him just outright, that he has a potential of becoming pure and perfect, and being a Brahmin, and conducting fire sacrifices. And Prabhupada often quotes those verses that stress Kirata, Huna, Pulinda, the people of all descriptions of all races can be accepted as Vaishnavas. And in Bhagavad Gita that's also said, that Shriya Vaishya Tatastrudas, all those people in all categories, they can become devotees if they follow the path of Krishna consciousness. There's nothing that prevents them. Their birth is not what determines their future. It's how they accept Krishna consciousness, if it's awakened in them somehow. Hope that helps. Okay, anything else? I think that's all we have time for. Thank you. Hare Krishna.